Welcome back to another episode of Critically Incorrect, your weekly gaming podcast. I'm your host, Brandon, or online here today with you once again to talk about all the latest gaming news and stuff like that. Joined today, I am with Charlie, like usual, so if you want to say hi.
Hello.
And yeah, got quite a bit of gaming news to talk about this week. Lately it's been a lot, and very thankful for that. A lot of stuff to dive into. So yeah, before we get into all that, Charlie, over the last week or so, what have you been up to?
I haven't gotten to play as much this week as I would have wanted, mainly because I've been trying to get my new PC up and running. It's all up and running now, I think. Uh, I seem to have got it all basically fixed yesterday, so I think I'm all good on that end now. So I've been playing a bit today. But the main thing I've actually been able to dive into this week was Multiverses. The closed alpha started yesterday, or the day before, I believe. I got access to it yesterday. I've put about 8 hours into it so far. I played quite a bit last night and then some this evening as well. It's like the Smash Brothers clone made by Warner Brothers, that has a ton of different IPs in it. And from what I've played, it's really really good. It's probably the most solid Smash clone I've played. Just all the characters feel really varied. They're all voiced by the voice actors you'd expect. Like Batman is voiced by Kevin Conroy. Harley Quinn is Tara Strong. Then they've got the guys from Adventure Time. They're all the original voice actors. So yeah, it's all really good, really well polished for an alpha build. I believe the beta is in July and it's going to be free to play. So I think once the beta ends, it'll just be the game's out. They seem to have around 15 to 20 characters at launch, and then they'll probably have, way more past then. I think there's at least probably another 15 characters that have been data mined so far, just from mentions in the code and stuff. And some of them are really weird picks, Gizmo from Gremlins and stuff, really random characters. So I'm really enjoying it. I'm very excited to play more of it, especially once it comes out. I think it has the potential to do really well because there's not too many of these games that stick around. Brawlhalla's probably the only other big one that does okay that's free to play. Obviously there was that Nickelodeon one last year, but that didn't really take off because it wasn't free. So yeah, this has a lot of potential. I'm really excited to play more of it. So that's been my main thing. And then I did play a tiny bit of Fall Guys. I just hopped on when they did the announcement, just to see what was going on in the game. I think there was a free costume or something, but I'm done with Fall Guys till the new update comes out because I've done everything in the game right now. But other than that, that's been it for this week, I believe.
Nice, right on. I haven't played terribly much over the last week or so. Just been more of what I played last week, which has been essentially just Evil Dead, I believe. Just been pretty busy this week, and then this weekend I'm doing another game jam, so I've been, just working on the game in my free time. So that's been pretty much it. I do really want to go back to Katana Zero though, and then I'm thinking about possibly picking up a Rogue Legacy 2 because my housemate's been playing that and he said it's really good, so possibly get into that. But yeah, nothing terribly much, but getting close to summertime here, so I'll have a lot more free time to get into some games that I've been missing out on in a while. And yeah, I look forward to that. But anyways, we'll move on to the releases this week. And as Charlie said, the Multiverse Alpha is out this week. I haven't really seen too much discussion on it, but I'm guessing it's just because, obviously it's closed at the moment. It's not really accessible unless you got an email. So yeah, I think I've only know you that's playing it, Charlie. But based on what you're saying, it sounds pretty cool. I look forward to, checking it out when it does go free to play. And yeah, definitely interesting for sure. It's cool to see that they have voice acting. I know that was the biggest complaint against Nickelodeon.
Yeah.
The one that came out last year. So really cool to see. And then also Game of the Year came out this week, and that's My Name is Mayo 3. So yeah, definitely for all those people that like to buy and get an easy platinum, here you go. My Name is Mayo 3. Enjoy it. But yeah. Anyways, we'll move into the gaming news, and as we started with the Callisto Protocol last week, we're also starting it again this week, because it turns out that the news for this week was the fact that it is Game Informer's cover story for the month of June. So very, very exciting. I know Glenn tweeted out earlier this week when Game Informer did their initial reveal. It's nice to see like Game Informer cover a game that's like far out, because they don't usually do that anymore. I think the last time they did a game that was decently far out was like Saints Row, when they were doing some gameplay for the fourth one, which inevitably was delayed. But yeah, I haven't seen too much in terms of gameplay, but I'm sure that's going to trickle out over, or like just, new information about the gameplay over the, month ahead. But yeah, Charlie, what have you heard so far, and what's your reaction to it being the cover for June?
Yeah, it's a nice change to have something, that's reasonably far out. I mean, it's still meant to be this year. Hopefully it still does hit this year. Which it's been in development for a while now, so I hope it does. Whether there's going to be too much here that's actually noteworthy, because it's the cover for June, right? So
Mm-hmm.
Summer Game Fest is the first week of June or second week. So like I don't know if they'll actually have like the first gameplay with Game Informer. My guess is they're not. I would imagine there's going to be a gameplay demo at Summer Game Fest, and then suddenly Game Informer start publishing stuff. So
Yeah.
it would be my guess. Is that Game Informer will probably have a few articles, maybe that like 100 or so questions with Glenn Schofield or whatever it
Those are
is,
always the best.
because those are really good. So I imagine maybe they'll put that out first, and then yeah, I don't think we'll get gameplay until after Summer Game Fest, just because I feel like with Jeff going to visit the studio and stuff, it's very likely that we get the gameplay reveal at that event. But either way, I'm very excited that there's going to be tons of information coming out next month for it, because I'm super pumped for the game. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing more from it. But it's just cool to see that they're doing a game that's relatively far out.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely on board for this kind of game. Looking forward to seeing how it looks and how it plays eventually. I'm sure we'll see it next month at Summer Game Fest, and whether or not Game Informer will also drop some gameplay. I'm sure they will eventually. But yeah, very, very cool. And we'll move on to the next news story, which I guess you can cover, Charlie, since you know more about this than I do.
Yeah, so I didn't even know this was happening until I think it was David Jaffe I saw was like streaming it. But basically, Marvel announced a new mobile and PC game. Normally, I wouldn't be too excited for the Marvel like mobile games, but this is being developed by a studio called Second Dinner, who were founded about 4 years ago now by the ex like Hearthstone game director and a ton of like ex Blizzard devs, and it's basically a Marvel card game like Hearthstone. The main sort of like differences with this is there's only 6 turns. You play your turns at the same time. So games are really, really quick, and obviously it's using the Marvel license, right? It looks really interesting. There's like a gameplay deep dive on YouTube, so you can go and check out like the game director playing a match and see how it all plays. But instead of like in Hearthstone where you're attacking the enemy player and destroying cards, you're basically trying to take 3 locations that are on the board. And you're basically trying to fill up your characters in that section and the amount of power they have. As long as your team beats theirs, then you take that location. You're trying to get like I think 2 out of the 3 locations to win a game, and then obviously if you win, you move up the ranks and that kind of thing. But it looks really fun. It looks a lot simpler than Hearthstone, and they've promised that it's not going to be like pay to win with cards and stuff, which is good. Um, but I think they've got like a closed beta coming out relatively soon, that you can sign up for, but they didn't have a date for it. So hopefully I'll get to check that out sooner rather than later, because it does look fun. So I'm definitely interested in trying that one out, because I did enjoy Hearthstone years ago, and I just kind of fell off because I wasn't too big a fan of the Warcraft IP, and it just got a bit too sweaty when you get into like ranked and stuff with people making like insane decks. Because that's another thing with this, where like instead of having to build like a 60 card deck with like 5 of each of the same cards, they've basically slimmed it down. So I think the deck is like 12 cards, but they're all, individual cards. So you don't have to worry about making some insane deck. It's a lot simpler, which is nice. So yeah, it looks interesting. Definitely go check it out if you're interested in that sort of game. But yeah, just a nice surprise.
It's awesome. I played Slay the Spire just like a few weeks ago, and it's really nice. Like when you get a card game that like just works like amazingly and like feels really fluid, and all the mechanics are working together. It's one of the best feelings. So I'll definitely check out that trailer. I know you posted it in the Discord. So yeah, that sounds definitely pretty interesting. I played a bit of Hearthstone myself back in the day. But yeah. Anyways, a pretty exciting news story comes from Norman Reedus, seemingly confirming at Death Stranding 2 in an interview. Essentially, the gist of it is they're just talking about like the finale of The Walking Dead, and also talking about how he met Kojima, which a lot of you guys know is like through Del Toro, just telling him to say yes, and then essentially he was just saying that the game won a lot of awards, and they're essentially starting work on part 2 now. There's like some kind of like discussion being had online whether or not it was actually Death Stranding, but I think if you read the article, like especially with this wording of part 2, like it kind of has to be a Death Stranding part 2. It's not like after Silent Hill and he was working on Death Stranding. It seems like this has to be like Death Stranding 2. So my guess is that like they just finished The Walking Dead filming or something like that. Norman Reedus is now like free, so now they can properly film it. I'm sure Kojima's also been working on something over like the last 2.5 years or something like that. It's been since Death Stranding came out, besides obviously the director's cut and like the PC version. But yeah, pretty interesting stuff. I'm not sure when to expect this game, if they're just starting it now. But I'm sure Kojima might have like 2 projects in development at the moment. I wouldn't be surprised. So yeah, Charlie, what'd you take from the interview?
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of surprised to be honest because it's not the kind of game I'd expect a sequel from, really. Both story wise and gameplay wise, like I don't really know what you do to for a sequel to Death Stranding. I'm definitely interested because whatever Kojima does, I'm gonna be interested in it. It is weird as well that they are just starting it now. But like you said, it's very likely that Kojima's probably working on multiple projects. They're a relatively large studio now. With I think they've because they opened that studio in the US as well now, right? So,
Yeah.
they've got quite a few staff members under their belt. But then there was also rumors that he's had a few projects cancelled on him. So it could just be that a couple of things fell through over the past few years. Um, I don't know what this would mean for like would it still be exclusive? Because I know for a long time people said
Mm-hmm.
that Sony weren't particularly happy with how Death Stranding turned out. Obviously, it still sold relatively well, but not compared to Sony's other big first party titles. So I wonder if maybe Sony would just publish it on PlayStation, and someone like 505 who published the first one on PC again would like publish this day and date on PC. Because I could definitely see this being one of Sony's like games where they wouldn't mind having it on PC day one and maybe on like other platforms. So, um, yeah, I'm interested to see when we see this. I imagine it's probably a few years off, but it's possible it's further off than that, and Kojima's got something coming out before then, I guess.
Yeah, I was surprised how quick Death Stranding came along together. So I was surprised that he only started work just now. So I definitely think it's possible something fell through, or like we said, maybe working on multiple projects. Either way, I in particular don't really want this to get a sequel, just because I don't know. It felt like a one-time experience that you play through the game, and I don't know. I don't feel like you could do a sequel unless like you're doing something very dramatically different with the sequel. Yeah, it's just a very bizarre choice for me at least. But nonetheless, I'll take it. Like if Kojima thinks it's worth pursuing, then we'll see what he comes up with. But yeah, definitely a very weird one. I don't know who would publish it. My guess would be Sony again, but I remember Sony wasn't, like you said, the happiest with the performance in terms of sales. So no, not sure. I definitely think that, like you said, PC day and date might make sense. I feel like Sony's trying to head into that direction somewhat loosely. Obviously, with like its big exclusives, it wants to remain like exclusive to their platforms. But now that we've seen like every PS4 exclusive, it's essentially almost on PC now, besides like Spider-Man and Bloodborne. Yeah, that could be something that they do soon. We'll see. Anyways, getting to another news story, The Witcher 3 next generation version, which we talked about, long on this podcast and multiple times for its delays. Well, it seems like it's planning on eventually coming out here in the Q4 of 2022. Yeah, I don't know. I remember last time we talked about it, I think like CD Projekt Red ended up taking it in-house because they weren't happy with something or something like that, where originally it was outsourced and they decided to like finish it up in-house. So Yeah, I mean Q4 makes sense at this point, just because Q4 is gonna be here sooner than we think, right? Like that's gonna be September, just here in like 4 months. So, yeah, it makes sense. I don't really know if there's an appetite for The Witcher 3 at this point on next gen. Like I'm sure people will, come and play it again, but it feels like so like I don't know. It just feels so like long now. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I just feel like it's not really relevant now. Like I feel like first and foremost that audience is mainly on PC, and second of all, I feel like people have played the game if they wanted to by now. But I don't know. What did you think about this? Are you still excited for this next gen version coming out or no?
I mean, I'm probably not gonna try it, right? I mean, I might
Yeah.
try the PC version, because they are gonna be doing like a patch for that to add like ray tracing or whatever it is they're gonna add to it. Um, but yeah, I mean, like you said, I feel like most people who have wanted to play Witcher 3 have probably played it now. I do have one of my mates who has been wanting to play it, but he's been holding off because he's waiting for this next gen version. Um, so there's got to be a small audience out there that are in that kind of boat, but it's not going to be that many. So it's cool that it's eventually going to come out, but I just don't think it's going to have as big an audience as CD Projekt might think it's going to have. Um, just because it's one of those games where if you've played it or wanted to play it, you probably have already.
Yeah, for sure. Like I still haven't been, gone through the whole entire game. I always stop like 5 hours in, but I guess if I do decide to play it again, I'll wait until eventually we get those PC upgrades for like ray tracing and stuff. So, yeah, I don't know. Very bizarre, but nonetheless, it's very, very cool, I guess. Anyways, Gearbox has apparently 9 AAA games in development. Not sure where this came out of, but yeah, I mean, Gearbox obviously is a publisher, right? It's not like 9 games particularly from them, but yeah, AAA games, that is pretty surprising. Not sure what that could be. I know they're working on the what one of those has to be the Telltale Tales from the Borderlands sequel that they
Yeah.
announced just not too long ago. The other 8, not so sure. I don't think they're gonna work on another Borderlands, but Gearbox has like a surprisingly large number of IPs that they
Godfall
publish.
2.
Oh my god, I was about to mention that. Yeah, Godfall 2, and what's the other one that was like now in development at the E3 press conference
Oh
that they always
shit!
kept
Yeah.
spamming?
Oh
I'm
fuck.
sure that's one of them as well, and
Homeworld
that has to
3,
be in
was that what it
development.
was? Is it
Yeah,
Homeworld
something World
3?
3. Homeworld 3 is now in development. That has to be a AAA game for sure. Yeah.
So
Do you have any
Homeworld
predictions on what those other games are?
Homeworld 4 through 8.
There
Yeah,
we go.
that's
Those are
that
the other
the
titles.
yeah, I don't know. I think this news came from the Embracer like event because obviously they are owned by Embracer now, so this was during like their like shareholder thing, I believe, is where all
Mm-hmm.
this info came out. As for the
Nice.
games, like you said, they're a publisher, so it could include anything. Um, like I said, Tales from the Borderlands is probably one. Honestly, a new Borderlands like mainline game is probably in there. Borderlands still does well enough that I think they'll work on another one because they're just too scared to do new IP again. Battleborn completely flopped for them,
Oh
so
my god, I remember that.
um, which is a shame because Battleborn actually like had some cool ideas, but it just it came out at the wrong time. Like releasing it right next to Overwatch with a game that looks so similar, like that was a terrible idea. Their marketing department was not all there at that point in time. So yeah, I hope that maybe they're working on some kind of new IP, but Borderlands 4 is very likely, I think. Um, but yeah, everything else, no idea. Um, I think a Godfall sequel of some kind might still happen. To be honest, there is a player base for that game, and they did that whole expansion, so there must be an audience that's buying stuff for that game. So who knows?
You know what I want? I want another Gearbox E3 showcase. That was amazing last year.
Overwatch
Oh
3 is
man,
now in development.
just
Oh,
that
now in
was an
production.
interesting.
Sorry.
Now in production, yeah, and then Randy Pitchford coming up to the cast and making them feel uncomfortable. That's
Walking
interesting.
up to random people's trailers.
Yeah, that was interesting. All right, and an interesting news story which made me laugh is the fact that Ubisoft's long-delayed Roller Champions title is finally launching next week, May 25th. I laugh because obviously this has been like what 4 years it feels like now since they announced this at like one of their E3 press conferences,
I think
and
2019.
Oh, okay, so 3 years. It's
Yeah.
still, I don't know. It felt like ages. I remember I played it back when it like first had that like
Yeah,
closed
same.
beta, and it was
I
definitely
think we might
rough.
have
But it
played it together, to be honest.
maybe, yeah. But that's crazy. The fact that we haven't heard about it for like so long, and now it's coming out. Yeah, that's wild. It's weird how quiet Ubisoft has been. Like obviously they're waiting for like a proper showcase, right? So they have stuff worth showing off. It's just so weird to see Ubisoft quiet because I don't think they've ever been like quiet for this long. Like obviously there's like some small news stories that come out with like Assassin's Creed's like DLC and stuff, but like they literally haven't talked since like it feels like Riders Republic came out. Yeah, it's just crazy. Uh, but yeah, what are your thoughts? Are you gonna try out Roller Champions or yeah, what's your plan?
I'm planning to try it out again. I remember really like being interested in it when it first got announced and giving it a go. But it just felt very bare bones. And then when I played it last year, they had like another like beta test, and it was the exact same. It felt like nothing had changed. And when I saw the gameplay trailer like last week, I again thought the same thing. This looks the exact same as it did 3 years ago. So I don't really know what's going on with the game. I just I'm scared for the devs because I can just see it being another Hyperscape where it'll launch and they'll try to support it for a season or two and the player base just won't be there and within a year they'll shut down servers. Um, I hope it's not that because Ubisoft really needs a win with some new IPs, but um, yeah, I don't know. I think it's too little too late, to be honest. I remember playing it that first test, and yeah, enjoying it. But like, that's so long ago. That's like nearly 3 years ago next month. Like, that's insane.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I lived in a completely different part of the country. So it's like, it's so weird that it's taken this long to get out and it doesn't feel like it's changed that much. Um, but I'll probably give it a go just to see what's going on day one. But I'm not expecting much.
I see the same issue I had with Hyperscape becoming a reality yet again for Roller Champions, and that's just the fact that the game doesn't look like it has a personality to it.
Yeah.
Like I had the same thing where like you think of Hyperscape and what like images come to your head, and I for me it was just fucking like France in like a digital decaying world. Like there's nothing there that was like really I don't know, personable or like memorable. And I see the same thing when I just looked up the Twitter page for Roller Champions and like from what I played, like it looks like all modern and futuristic. Like they have like good fonts and like UI, but there's nothing there with like personality that like latches onto the IP. So yeah, who knows? Uh, yeah, that's crazy. I'll check it out. Is it free to play? Did you say it's free to play
Yeah, it's free to play.
okay? I'll definitely give it a shot. Even though I hate Ubisoft's launcher, I'll try it out for a bit and see if it has changed at all. That's the one where you're like throwing the ball, passing it to each other, and stuff like that, right? And
Yeah,
like rolling
it's the
around.
one that is trying to get on the Rocket League sort of train, but to be honest, even that
Hmm.
I think is a bit too late. Like Rocket League is such a big thing now that it just doesn't have any competition. So yeah,
Yeah,
we'll see.
that's crazy. I looked at the promo and it had like Roller League and like the font looked exactly like Rocket League. I almost read it as Rocket League. Yeah, a little too late there, but hopefully it plays good and finds somewhat of an audience. So yeah, we'll only see. Time will tell. Anyways, Battlefield 2042 received a new patch, which has removed the variant of Breakthrough, so now only 64 players on next gen. Season 1 is releasing early June, with more details soon. Charlotte, do you have any more information on that?
Yeah, I mean you covered the basis there. I know a lot of people were freaking out online because there was so many clickbait like articles saying that Battlefield's cut an entire mode from the game, and I was like, well, they didn't. They basically so because it's 128 players on next gen, but
Mm-hmm.
basically everyone who's played the game agrees that the game is better with 64 players on slightly smaller maps, which is why when you go on the game they have a limited time mode for Breakthrough and Conquest, where it's 64 players, but they've had it as limited time for probably the past 2 months. They just left it on because it's doing a lot better. And basically, they noticed that a lot more players are playing 64 player Breakthrough than 128 because it's a little less chaotic, and it's a bit easier to have squad play, and it's just more fun. So they basically just saw the player counts were super like declining, so they've just removed the 128 player mode. But the thing is, because of how Battlefield 2042 works, if you really want to play 128 player Breakthrough for whatever reason, you could just make it on Portal. Someone could just set up a Portal server for it. So it's not like it's been removed from the game. It's just they've taken it away from the, official 2042 menu, right? So it's nowhere near as big of a deal as people seem to think it is. Um, but yeah, overall it's a positive thing, to be honest, just because people weren't playing it anyway. Um, as for the patch, when it first came out, I know it did like break the game slightly, and there was a load of stuttering issues, but they fixed it that night, so they seemed pretty on it, which was good to see. As for season one, they'd said up to this point was summer, so I was fully expecting them to do a Battlefield soon trademark and be like end of August or something. So the fact that it's like in a few weeks is really cool. Hopefully it's more than just one map. Well, I know it's going to be one map, but I hope it's more than just that. Like, I hope there is at least that big map, some new weapons, a new character, hopefully some new Portal maps. If they bring back like Operation Metro for Portal, that'd be awesome. Um, so yeah, I'm still playing 2042. I've been playing it a lot more recently because the patches have been pretty good. So I'm definitely going to be playing season one. So I'm glad it's coming out relatively soon. So I imagine next week or the week after we'll probably get like a proper blog post or like trailer regarding what's coming with season one. But it's crazy to think it's been like it'll have been nearly 8 months, I think, since the game came out before we even got season one. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I haven't really heard people talk much about Battlefield, which sucks, but that is funny. I feel like that always happens with a lot of games. They do like an LTM, and it's like they realize like the game is actually a lot more fun with that LTM. It's
Yeah.
funny because like that's like literally what's happening with Fortnite right now. Like I have the no building playlist always playing instead of like regular duos. I'm always just playing the no build version. Uh, yeah, it's just a good way to like give out like variants to the community and see what latches on. But cool to see that season one is finally releasing in early June. That's crazy. It's been so long, but I know they had to like bug fix a lot of stuff, so it makes sense. Anyways, a very personal, exciting announcement for me is the fact that Square Enix is planning on making some Final Fantasy VII announcements next month to coincide with its 25th anniversary. I imagine they're gonna pull off some sort of event in June-ish. I don't know if they'll do like a full-on E3 showcase, but I feel like if they wanted to, they probably could. Like if they combine the Final Fantasy VII announcements with whatever they're gonna do with Final Fantasy 16, because I imagine they're probably ready to showcase that off soon. Uh, they probably have stuff worth showing off. It's interesting. I don't know what Square Enix would do with like their Western studios, because like I know they're doing like a new Tomb Raider, but like even if that was ready to be shown off, like I don't know if they would, given everything. I guess that game's still tied to Square Enix, so they could, but yeah, who knows? I feel like if they were gonna do something in June, they would have announced it by now, though. So maybe they'll just do like some separate Final Fantasy VII news in June. But either way, that's very exciting. Uh, not like expecting a whole lot, just because it's it's only been like what 2 years since Final Fantasy VII remake. So I feel like it's naive to expect like a lot in terms of the reveal, but they could definitely show off like a CGI trailer or something to showcase like their direction with the next game. And even though it's like part two and it's going to be like another big JRPG, like I imagine a lot of the combat's going to carry over from part one, so maybe development is going faster than I thought. So who knows? Charlie, you played Final Fantasy VII, right? How'd
Yeah.
you like remake?
I enjoyed
Yeah.
it. I think this is probably going to be a pretty big deal, mainly because I don't think Square will do their own event for this. I imagine this will show up at a PlayStation event. So this probably means there is some kind of PlayStation thing happening next month, which has been a rumor for a little while. I know like Tom Henderson and like Jeff Grubb were saying they'd both heard that it could be September time, but it could be June. Like there've been so many conflicting things, because obviously Sony have cracked down on a lot of like leaks when it comes to their events. But the thing is, all like the big Square Enix like titles have all been revealed at Sony events the past few years.
Yeah,
Usually
that's
because they
true.
have a marketing deal. So if Final Fantasy 16 gets shown this summer, it'll be at a Sony event. if they announce Remake Part 2 this summer, it will probably be at a Sony event. So if they're
That's very
saying
true.
next month, I imagine it'll be a PlayStation event of some kind. That's if it is to do with the remake, because I know they were doing that like a couple of Final Fantasy VII mobile games, like that Battle Royale game, and there was something else. So who knows? They might just like do something to do with that. They could be absolutely trolling people, but I know like the main guy behind like 7 remake was saying they'll have stuff to share soon, right? So or like this year, I think he wanted to show stuff. So it makes sense if it's here. Um, but I definitely think if we get those announcements, it'll be a Sony event. So it's looking more likely that we do get a traditional June timeframe, like E3 Sony event, which would be cool to see since we didn't get one last year because it was in September, right? So, yeah, hopefully it's a Sony event. That's what I'm betting on if I had to. But yeah, hopefully we see like remake. I'm more excited to see the 16 because I think it could still come out this year, but who knows?
Yeah, I haven't been following Sony as much as I used to when I was obviously making a lot of Sony videos on my channel. But like just thinking outside of like my head right now, what do they have currently like exclusive wise, Sony wise? Like they only have God of War Ragnarok coming out tentatively sometime soon. Like is that it? Like what else is like in the pipeline for PlayStation exclusives that
I
they've
guess
announced?
if God of War is still this year, then it's God of War and Last of Us remake, right? Like that's
But even
two
Last of Us
big
Remake isn't even
things.
announced. Like I'm just talking about like things that have been announced. So like Sony kind of
Yeah.
has to show something off because like to the average mom and dad or PlayStation fan, they only have God of War Ragnarok and that doesn't even have a date. Has we ever been in like a situation where Sony has had like literally not even like one exclusive with like a date like in the
I
future?
don't
Because I feel like
know.
they always have at least some kind of game in the future
Yeah.
that would have a date. That's crazy. It must suck if like you're really following PlayStation right now. But yeah, if I was a betting man, I'd probably say they would have to show off something in June. I know there was like a rumor like that Jeff Krebs said that apparently Sony wasn't doing anything until September, but like I don't see how you can do that.
Yeah.
Like I guess on one hand, like they're already trying to just focus on publishing enough like consoles and there's like already a big enough demand there, but they need to keep the ball rolling in terms of like software because like I think the last showcase they had like for the PS5 was in September, right?
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
that
It was
God of War
September.
Ragnarok, Wolverine,
The thing
Spider-Man
is,
2
though,
thing.
I think it's so dependent on when Ragnarok is launching because the later they leave it, the more I think they're going for a God of War 2018 reveal where it's like it's out in 2 months because that's what happened before, wasn't it? Like they announced the date literally less than 2 months before it came out, or something like 2 3 months. So
It was yeah, like 2 3 months
because it
before.
was what end of January, beginning of February they announced the date, and then it came out in what
Yeah,
April. So
April 20th,
uh,
420.
yeah, so I wonder if they're trying to do that and they have a June event and then they're like it's out in September. Cuz yeah, I don't see it slipping to next year. I feel like it would have been said at this point. But I mean,
I feel like
Sony's
Ragnarok,
not
just given the
predictable anymore,
theme,
so
yeah, Sony is not predictable anymore. Given the theme of Ragnarok, like obviously it would make sense to be like a winter title, but like even then it could be like January or something. My guess, like just my gut feeling says that it is coming out soon, but I feel like it might get pushed out until like January or February of 2023, just like
yeah.
that first month or two of 2023. Um, I don't honestly know because like that September trailer we got was pretty lengthy. Like it gave us like a lot of cool like gameplay snippets. So the game definitely feels really far along. But
And I don't
yeah,
know,
just the
like
fact that we haven't heard from it.
I guess we can talk about it here, but they did the whole um like the
Accessibility thing.
accessibility
Post.
thing, and I know people did like comparisons graphically, and it does look like it's had some big improvements in some areas,
Yeah, it
like
does.
comparing that trailer to what was shown in the clips. So
The assets look a lot higher quality. Like God of War on PS4 looked a little bit softer compared to the new screenshots they had that feel more detailed for sure. Like it substantially looked different. Usually people put stuff side by side, and I can hardly really tell the difference. But yeah, there was a clear difference in the new screenshots they posted. Um, Yeah, I haven't really thought about God of War in a while, to be honest, because I'm like now at a point where it's like when they announce stuff, then I'll think about it. But yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. We're kind of at a point where it makes sense for them to show it off again, since it's been like 9 months. It'd be nice to get a Sony showcase just so we can like see that Last of Us remake and maybe even Factions too.
Don't even say it.
But
Every
that
time you
doesn't even
say it, it gets
exist.
pushed back like another year. So,
Yeah, no kidding.
yeah.
That's crazy, Charlie. We're like almost 2 years since Last of Us Part 2 came out. And this multiplayer
Bro.
component that was originally a part of it is not even announced yet officially. Well, it's announced, but like not really like officially. Like, I don't know. So, yeah, it's in
Do you
development,
think it's
quote
this
unquote.
year?
The factions?
Yeah.
I don't. That's the multiplayer time frame is really weird, but like based on their hiring, it's been like they're still looking for like key people to like do level design. So like it tells me that they're not ready.
Yeah.
I think The Last of Us remake is this year just because it's a remake, so it's not like they're like doing crazy changes, right? Like I imagine they could probably finish that out by the end of the year, especially since the visual team that we've talked about in the past that was originally, behind it already was working on it for like a few years, and now like Sony's like Naughty Dog has had 2 years since remake, or since part two rather. I mean, so I definitely think remake should be by the end of the year probably. Uh, Factions, I feel like you'd want to release that later though. I don't know. Like I could see the appeal of releasing Factions with the remake because obviously, it could be like a popularity boost, but it's also kind of like competing against each other. Like I feel like those are two separate projects in a way.
I feel like if it
So
comes out at the end of the year, that's a big like blow if it comes out anywhere near like Call of Duty or something, just with multiplayer
I feel like,
games.
yeah, for multiplayer games, you'd probably want to save that for like early next year or something. I could see Factions 2 being like my gut feeling says Factions 2 is like March, which is crazy because that's still 10 months out. But like just for the fact that we haven't seen it announced. But like honestly, Naughty Dog could surprise us. Like a lot of times with multiplayer games nowadays, we see them announced like a week before they're like out. Like
Yeah.
look at Apex Legends that happened, and that's like one of the biggest like multiplayer games that came from like a not like a notoriously single player studio, but like they're kind of similar to Naughty Dog in a way, I guess Respawn. But yeah, I don't know.
Maybe
It's
they should shadow drop
honestly I
factions
just don't
during
even
the
think about
event.
it much. Bro, don't even give me that hope. Oh my god, I'd love that. I'd like cancel all my travel plans to stay home and play factions. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, I just want it to. I don't know. I'm torn because like if factions is not coming out till like early next year, I don't even want to see it really because I don't want to see it until like it's about to come out really.
Yeah.
But if there's one thing that can get me to return to making YouTube videos on Online ZHD, it's factions. Like I'll literally make YouTube videos again on that, even though like it'll take me away from like my career in college. Like I want to be a part of Naughty Dog multiplayer community again, and we haven't had that since like Uncharted 4. So, oh man, that's why I want it really. Man, please. Now I'm gonna like go on tonight and like look up like job listings from Naughty Dog and see
Bro.
where this project is. I haven't even thought about factions in like half a year. So thank you for that, Charlie.
You're welcome.
But yeah, I just to go back to the main topic because we took a big detour. I think it makes sense for Sony to do a showcase next month. I feel like they kind of have to. Uh, just because I don't know, I don't see Sony going through the whole entire summer without having like anything like in concrete detail on what's coming out soon. Because like even though like yeah, like even though they could like shadow drop like stuff like that, like the Last of Us remake would need to be announced like 6 months prior for it to come out, or like 5 months prior. Like it'd have to be announced like in the next month if it's gonna come out later this year. I don't see them announcing it in like August and it coming out like what Call of Duty's been doing lately. Like there's no way they'd do that. Um, but yeah, it's interesting for sure. But if I was a betting man, I'd say we get a showcase in June. What would you say?
Yeah, I think June is more likely at this point. Um, and for me, the Square Enix stuff just kind of reaffirmed it for me. So yeah, I think June is when we get something.
Yeah, for sure. Anyways, to move on to another news story, Fall Guys is finally going free to play June 1st. So yeah, currently, obviously, it's on PlayStation and PC, but there's gonna be like a native PS5 version coming out, um, and it's also gonna be coming to new platforms, Switch and Xbox. So that's very nice. Obviously, for those that have already, quote unquote, purchased the game, whether through like Steam or through PS Plus, they're gonna get like legacy packs, and like I know they're doing like season pass stuff now for like future content or something like that. So like legacy players will be rewarded, and then like like incoming players will be able to go down the free path of the new free to play model. I have seen some people complain that Fall Guys is not going free to play. I get it, because I did like Fall Guys for the fact that you just buy it and like everything else coming out in the future would be free. But as soon as Epic bought it, I'm like, it needs to be sustainable in like the long run. And like,
Yeah.
I don't know, I don't see, like, I personally never felt compelled to like spend more money on Fall Guys. And for like a company, like a corporate company, that's a problem, right? They want you to be feeling enticed to spend more money in their ecosystem. So yeah, it's essentially going to be what like Epic has now under what Fortnite, Rocket League, and now Fall Guys. Crazy. It's just going to join, the traditional, progression plans. I did see they're working on like a creative mode, so they're like people are going to be able to publish their own like tracks or like modes, which I think is really really cool, and that could add like a lot of life to the game. Because yeah, that's that'll be huge. I'm sure like a lot of the most played courses like next time this year will probably be a lot of stuff from the community, just because there's so many people out there that can work on stuff, and I'm sure a lot of cool stuff will come out of that. Yeah, what do you think about that, Charlie? Are you planning on returning the Fall Guys when it goes free to play?
Yeah, I'm really excited for it to finally come out on like Xbox. I've had a mate of mine who has wanted to play Fall Guys for since it came out. And he's played bits like round mine when he's come around mine and stuff, and he really likes it. So I'm excited to play it with him. I'm glad that he doesn't have to buy it. Right, you can just download it, which would be cool. I personally like that it's gone free to play. I think that's the best for the game, right? Because as much as like it was nice that you bought the game for like $20 or whatever, and you got all the passes every season, and there was no paid content, except if you really wanted to buy a specific skin. I like that kind of method, but the problem is it's just not sustainable long term. Once your player base just gets to its kind of peak, you're never gonna make any money from it, because obviously everyone's already bought the game, right? So it makes more sense for it to be free and have paid passes. I know they're going to be doubling what you get from the passes, because they're at like 50 tiers, whereas it's going to be 100 tiers moving forward, which makes a lot more sense if they're going to make you pay for that stuff. There needs to be a lot there to actually warrant it. And content-wise, there seems to be a lot of cool-looking tracks with what they're calling Season 1, because I guess they're kind of rebooting the game now that it's gone free to play. So yeah, I'm excited for it. I hope this is kind of like a bright future for Fall Guys, because even though it's had a pretty cool community, I think a lot of that community has been really annoyed for quite a few months now, because they were stuck with the current season for like, I think 6 to 8 months at this point. That this current season's been going on. Like, yeah, it's been going a long time. Just because they kept delaying to make sure that the next season would be this big free to play cross play type thing. I think the new season is actually kind of themed around that. Like, it's meant to be all the Fall Guys are going back to like their capital city for like the annual like Fall Guys Cup, and they're in like this big old stadium, and they're all coming together or whatever. So yeah, I'm excited to go back and play it. I played it a lot this season, just to make sure I got everything. I also wanted to get the platinum before the new launcher came out to see if they stack. They said it won't. They said they'll be removing the trophy list, but then I replied to Shuhei on Twitter, and then freaking PS4 or PS5 trophies, however you want to say his name,
I saw that.
like
Yeah.
corrected me and was like, "No, you'll keep both trophy lists." So I don't know. I was going off the FAQ on Fall Guys website, but he's saying you'll keep it. So I don't even know. We'll see. Maybe I'll have 2 platinums. Maybe I won't. But yeah. So yeah, I'm excited to play it. It's still like a month away, I guess. I was kind of hoping it would be sooner than that, but yeah, I'm glad it's finally coming to everything else.
It's a great time frame. It's crazy to see how big Fall Guys has become. I remember when I saw it at Devolver's like E3 showcase, I knew it would be something special, just because it was like such a cool concept of having like a battle royale meets Wipeout. So it's really cool to see how it was like has grown. I think ultimately Epic support will be good. Like, although it sucks to see that like now, there is like this free to play model, and that there's gonna be like season passes and stuff like that. I get it, but ultimately I feel like with Epic's support, they're probably gonna be able to do a lot more with each season, and it's gonna be a lot more substantial, similar to like what Rocket League and Fortnite does. So I feel like it's only gonna be a brighter future now that they have the backing behind them. And it's cool to see that now Switch and Xbox are joining in, and cross-play and cross-progression between everything is going to be a thing, similar to the other, two games that Epic now controls. So, yeah, cool to see. Anyways, a smaller news story that was announced this week is that Greedfall 2 is a thing. I honestly don't know anything besides that. I just saw that was mentioned in the Discord, so cool to see that game is getting a sequel. I know that there's that first one was like a decent game. I think it was like a good game. Like, wasn't like anything amazing, but people seem to really like it. So I imagine that's why we're getting a sequel here. Do you know anything more about Greedfall 2? Did you play Greedfall?
I don't know too much about the sequel. I think they said it's coming out like 2024 or something. Yeah, I didn't play the original. I remember looking into it a bit, but I just never picked it up. Because it was the same as like those Risen games for me, where it was like they weren't quite like AAA games. They were just kind of like, I guess, AA, where it's just they're trying to like appeal to that RPG style audience, but they're not quite on the same level as like the old Dragon Age games or anything like that. So it's not one I ever picked up. I remember thinking about playing it a few times, but it's just there's other things I would rather play, so I've just never gotten around to it. I don't know if I will ever play it, but it's cool for those that did enjoy it, because I know it was pretty I think it did quite well review wise compared to their other games. So
yeah, that's cool. I definitely want to try out Gearbox, but there's just so many games on my backlog that I'd be lying if I said it's on the top. So yeah, we'll move on. Anyways, personally, this one is pretty interesting, and actually this reminds me, I gotta go back to Dying Light 2. Techland is developing a new AAA open-world fantasy RPG, and it's going to be helmed by people from CD Projekt Red, Arcane Studios, Guerrilla Games, obviously notorious for like RPGs, right? Yeah, it seems like they're working on a pretty big, ambitious next game after Dying Light 2. Not sure how well Dying Light 2 has sold so far, but I imagine, it's done decently for them, that they're going to be able to do something, in the future with this new AAA open world fantasy RPG. Yeah, no idea when this will come out, but I imagine it's going to be a long ways off, because it sounds like it's going to be like a new IP, right? And, everything we're hearing about it seems like it's going to be an ambitious project, so yeah, no idea. I feel like they probably will support Dying Light 2 over the next, few years, similar to what they did with Dying Light 1. Which was, crucial for them, because Dying Light 2 took forever, but they had like updates for Dying Light 2 or Dying Light 1, so that people were like satisfied in the meantime. So yeah, who knows if that's what their goal is, but I feel like that'd be pretty smart. Yeah, what did you think? What is your thoughts on, this new ambitious project from Techland?
yeah, I'm certainly interested in it, especially with all the talent they're bringing in for it. I am a little bit disappointed, because I was kind of hoping Hellraid was going to be the next thing they work on. If you don't know what that is, that was like
DLC, right?
So it ended up being DLC, but originally it was a full on game that they announced around the same time as Dying Light, like a first person fantasy game where you're killing like skeletons and all that kind of stuff. It looked pretty cool. It got quite far in development, and they put it on hold to finish Dying Light, and then they just kind of left it, and then they ended up doing it as like making a DLC for Dying Light where they used that IP. And they said they may go back to it one day, but for now it's just kind of on the back burner, just left. And I was kind of hoping that after Dying Light 2 they'd go back to it, but I guess they're not. Unless, maybe it's evolved into whatever this RPG is. It's possible, but I doubt it. But I'm still interested to see what it is. I really enjoyed Dying Light, and I enjoyed Dying Light 2, so I'm definitely excited for whatever it is, but I imagine it's a long ways off as of yet.
Yeah, definitely agree that's going to be a long ways off, but yeah, just is the reality of game development nowadays.
Yeah.
So yeah, just sucks, but it is what it is. Anyways, our last news story is pretty exciting. This comes from apparently a notorious leaker for Take-Two, and they say that, well, first of all, Take-Two themselves confirmed that they're doing 8 more remakes / remasters by the time that 2025 comes around. Not really a big surprise if you look at the 3 GTA remasters that just came out. I just, God, hope that they're better quality than those. Just, that was such a big disappointment. But yeah, anyways, the rumor side of this is that a notable Rockstar leaker said that not only is Rockstar working on a Red Dead 2 next generation version finally, but they're also going to be working on a Red Dead 1 remake as well. So that is pretty exciting. Not really excited for the Red Dead 2 next gen version if it's anything like GTA 5. I remember I came home for spring break to watch like my brother play a bit of that on his PS5, and I thought he was still playing the PS4 version. Didn't even look that different, and I'm like, bro, they made us wait like 2 years for that.
But it's
So
expanded and enhanced, Brandon. What do you mean?
Yeah, no kidding. But then, yeah. Besides that, like a Red Dead 1 remake would have to look good, right? Like, there's no way to go around it. Like, that game's from PS3 and Xbox 360 era. Yeah, that's the one I'm looking forward to the most here. Especially since it's also just not that accessible. Red Dead 1, I think the most accessible it is right now is if you have like an Xbox 360 disc of it, you can play it on the One, which you can play it on probably the Series X now as well. So that's probably the only way you could do it. But if you're on the PlayStation side of things, you're kind of out of luck. And also on PC, you're also just out of luck because the game doesn't even exist on PC. So hopefully One will get a PC port / remake, whatever this thing is. And then as well as, just native versions for PS5 and Xbox Series X. That'd be nice. So yeah, mainly personally, after seeing GTA 5, I don't really care about the Red Dead 2 next gen version, but sign me up for the Red Dead 1 remake for sure. What do you think, Charlie?
Yeah, like you, I'm not bothered about the next gen version. Like I've got it on PC if I want to play it. Like that'll be like the definitive version, right? It's probably always going to be.
Yeah.
But the remake though, I really want to be true. Like I've wanted that remake since all those leaks came out when Red Dead 2 first came out and people found those files of like Jack Marston or whatever, like talking in the game.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know how long this has been in development. I know the leaker was basically saying that he'd heard the next gen version was pretty far in development, and then they kind of put it on hold to focus on the remake, presumably because Take-Two said they want them to put out more stuff. So hopefully that means the remake is pretty far along. When we see it, who knows? Rockstar's one of those weird developers where they never show up at events. They'll just randomly tweet about something and announce it because it's Rockstar. They can do whatever the fuck they want. So yeah, I hope it's relatively soon. I'd love to replay Red Dead 1. It's been a few years now. And like you said, Brandon, there's no easy way to really play it except for on Xbox. If you have anything from a 360 upwards, you can play it in backwards compatible. Whereas PlayStation, there's just PS Now, I guess,
Yeah.
which is not ideal. And then it never even released on PC. So I'd imagine this would be coming to PC as well. Like I would hate to be a PC only person and the remake not happen. So imagine if they didn't do it after all these years, it still doesn't come to PC. That'd be insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really hope this remake's true. Just chuck it in that newer version of the engine, maybe even a slightly better version of the engine as well. Just with those graphics, man, that'd be so good. Maybe with some of the like mechanics and physics and stuff from Red Dead 2 as well. Yeah, I'm excited if it's true, but I mean we've been hearing about rumors like this for so long. Honestly, I don't even know.
I'm just not really like hopeful in Rockstar's capabilities lately, just because everything they've done with Red Dead Online has been just an utter flop, and I think they haven't even like done like any like work like any updates for like almost a year now. Because I know someone replied to Jason Schreier asking him if he can look into why Red Dead Online hasn't received like an update in like a year. So he's looking into that apparently. Just that's really bizarre and kind of upsetting for like that community, right? And then also we have obviously the remasters that weren't even done by Rockstar, but they kind of like oversaw it, I'm guessing, and that those weren't really up to snuff. And then obviously Rockstar themselves did the GTA 5 port over, but wasn't really even that anything big, given its own primary announcement and stuff like that. So yeah, not really that faithful in it. Seems like they're prioritizing their just GTA Online updates because that's what makes them the most money for Take-Two. Yeah, it's upsetting, but just is what it is, I guess. But yeah, that's it for episode 68. Quite a lot of gaming news to talk about, so yeah, a lot to chew on there. And hopefully, as we get closer to June, we'll hear some stuff from like PlayStation and the Nintendo. So yeah, only time will tell. But for that, we'll see you next week until episode 69. Take care.
See you later.